Anybody down for a little reunion? Well, let's go out there and talk about the latest piece on the hockey news by Adam Proteau from 2 days ago. Because this article goes out there and talks about the Toronto Maple Leafs and a guy who is on this squad that very well could be leaving his blue and white. Re-sign, reunite, or relocate. Here are 3 potential destinations for Tyler Bertuzzi of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He had entered free agency last season and joined the Toronto Maple Leafs. Adam Proteau examines whether he'll stay there or consider 2 other destinations. Now, it doesn't take a genius. If you read the title, you saw the thumbnail, you know what we're talking about here. Let's go over the idea of Tyler Bertuzzi reuniting with the Detroit Red Wings, because they are one of the 3 destinations listed out in this piece. Now, Tyler Bertuzzi is 29 years old, 6'2", 201 left-handed guy, and he is a UFA. Great. This previous season, he had 43 points in 80 games played, which admittedly is not one of the better seasons he has had. He had better years in the past, but his best season of Detroit's was 2 years ago, 62 points, 68 games played. He then ended off next season with Boston, scoring 16 points in 21 games over there, and he had 10 points in 7 games in the playoffs with the Bees. So Tyler Bertuzzi, for all intents and purposes, has been fairly good the past few years. And with his 40 points in 80 games this season, you could definitely say that he was brought on and he fulfilled the role he was given. Maybe not to the same extent as when he had 62 points in 68 games 2 years ago, but still to a fairly capable middle to top 6 capacity. Now, for Tyler Bertuzzi, because he is one of these guys that the Toronto Maple Leafs have that needs a new contract, there's always going to be a question. Hey, are the Leafs going to be able to do this? Are they going to be able to bring him back? Are they going to get that discount that the Leafs so desperately need because they're sending so much money out the window because of that core 4? Tyler Bertuzzi is in a pretty tough spot because he probably could command, let's say, $6.5 million a year if he does go to free agency, but the question is, would the Toronto Maple Leafs be able to keep him on at some sort of a cheaper cap hit? Who really knows? So this article by Adam Proteau goes out there and breaks it down with Toronto. The Maple Leafs have some salary cap stress to address, but if they really wanted to keep Bertuzzi, they could, so long as his AAV is around the $5 to $6 million mark on a 3-year deal. Bertuzzi was very well treated in Toronto, and that goes a long way towards him considering to return. We'd put the chances at 60-40, returning or not returning, that Bertuzzi is a Leaf again. It's often that the devil you know is better than the devil you don't in hockey free agent decisions, and while the Leafs disappointed again last season, Bertuzzi looked strong and willing to pay a physical price in and around the opponent's net. The Leafs should be striving to bring him back. Now, okay, that's not new. It's not really anything that I think changes the game in a super drastic way. Yeah, okay, the Toronto Maple Leafs could bring him back. Awesome. However, when it comes to the other ideas, this is where things get very interesting because the next team that is discussed is Detroit. Bertuzzi's greasy game is exactly what the Wings need more of, and of course, his 7 years with the Wings were very good to him. Detroit has about $29.3 million in cap space, and with the Wings trying desperately to get back into the playoff picture, Bertuzzi's willingness to bounce around in high-impact areas should be appealing. He's got a few good years ahead of him as an above-average NHLer, so GMs should be fully aware they'd have to put forth a lucrative offer to Bertuzzi. But Detroit GM Steve Yzerman has shown he's willing to spend money, and Bertuzzi could choose to go with a familiar and pull on the Red Wings jersey once again, knowing they're closer to playoff contention. And yeah, that's true, eh? Talk about Steve Yzerman shelling out extra dollars to these free agent middle 6 caliber guys. I'm not saying that Bertuzzi isn't a top 6 player. I'm saying that if you wanted to switch things around and have a Raymond, Larkin, DeBrincat line and have Bertuzzi somewhere in the second with a Cop or whatever, that makes sense. Like, it's not a terrible idea. Certainly would fit, I would say, the competitive window that the Wings have started to open up for themselves in this year. But of course, the question does become, with this cap space that the Wings have, assuming of course you re-sign Raymond and Seider to reasonable dollar amounts, with the amount of money you got, do you want to use that extra dollar bolstering up your forward core? Would you rather go for somewhat of a goaltender? Would you rather try to go for a D-man? There have been a few concerns, you could say, in terms of keeping the puck out of the Wings' net, whether it be pointing fingers at the guy who's manning the crease or the guys who are outside and guarding it. It's been a pretty rough go the past season, and you could debate whether or not forward support, especially after the years of signing Kopp and Comfer and still having these extra transitory guys like Veleno and Jonathan Berggren potentially being an option. Do you really need a Tyler Bertuzzi? That's the question. Would you guarantee yourselves success by making this kind of a signing? You could say that if Patrick Kane doesn't come back, then okay, maybe it's a lot easier to shell out some of that extra money to get Bertuzzi back. If you don't get Kane to sign on the contract, just give that same money to Bert. Does that make sense? I don't know. You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. But also the question has to be held here whether or not Bertuzzi would actually want to come back to a team like Detroit. It's a pretty interesting argument that Proto brings up, that because the Wings are more competitive now, it would be a lot easier for him to maybe decide, hey, maybe Detroit is the team for me, maybe I'd like to come back here. There already is good familiarity there, and there's good fan support and love for Bertuzzi. I mean, the guy was a Wing for a long time, so I certainly think there would be some positive feelings should he return. But at the end of the day, it takes two to tango, right? And if the Toronto Maple Leafs go out there and just give Bertuzzi a straight-up better offer, they say, hey, we're going to trade away Tavares, we're going to trade away Marner, so you're going to get more minutes with Austin Matthews. It's going to be you, Matthews, and Nylander. Screw Matthew Nyes. That guy's going to play on the second line with whomever else they get in free agency to fill up that center spot or whatever. It's an interesting idea if you wanted to use that Toronto Maple Leafs pitch and depart from the core four. All of a sudden, imagine the Leafs with more cap space and more spending power for other guys to round out the lineup. That sounds pretty dangerous, not gonna lie. Either way, though, the third team, if you wanted to go out there to the rest of this article that is mentioned, is the Nashville Predators, and I kind of don't want to talk about Nashville in this video. You can let me know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about that? I'd say that for my quick analyses on the Preds, they need scoring, and look, Bertuzzi can do that. He was a 30-goal guy with the Detroit Red Wings. He was a 20-goal guy with the Leafs. So if he's able to go over to a team that needs goal scoring and score some goals, hey, that's self-explanatory enough, right? Plus, he fits with the snarl and the defensive efficiency type of style that the Nashville Predators play. They're so physical, they're so in-your-face, and Bertuzzi matches that style to a T. Just all these guys. I mean, Colton Sissons, Jeremy Lauzon, these guys shot block, these guys hit, they're physical. It's a pretty nice compliment, I would say, to the way that Tyler Bertuzzi plays the game. But of course, Nashville Predators fans, you're free to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the idea of signing Tyler Bertuzzi to your squad? But also, Leafs fans, Red Wings fans, how do you feel about this? Is this an idea you can get behind? And would you want to see this happen? Like, ultimately, we're asking two fan bases the same question, right? But if you are a fan of either of these two teams, if it's Bertuzzi, yay or nay, what's your verdict? And if the price range is in the $5-6 million AAV range, does that change the way you feel about it? Of course, Bertuzzi came off of 2 pretty solid years, so he's going to get paid this offseason. But if it's a little bit too much out of Toronto's price range, we'll have to wait and see what they end up doing. Also for Detroit, we have to see what they end up doing with some of these other contracts they have to sign, and then what they'll do with that extra dollar amount. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Tyler Bertuzzi returning to Detroit or re-signing with the Toronto Maple Leafs? I hope you enjoyed this video. 99, and bye.